Cisco Extended Detection and Response, or XDR for short, configuring VMware distributed switches to send IPFix, or NetFlow version 10 basically, to the PNM sensor. So I want to make it clear that the NetFlow configuration we're about to go through is only supported on a distributed VMware switch. It's not supported on a standard ESXi switch. Those are the ones that basically come up when you build a new ESXi server. Now you need to configure it a distributed switch between all of the different ESXi servers, and that's where this configuration is supported. If you're not using that, if you're using just standard switches in your environment, there really is no way to configure it for NetFlow, and it doesn't support port mirroring either to consume telemetry that way. We'll have to come up with a different method, and I'll see maybe if I can put something together later on if you're only using standard switches. So let me see if I can talk us through the problem we're trying to solve here with this video. Think about a normal VMware environment. You have multiple ESXi servers, and on all of those ESXi servers are a bunch of virtual machines. And all of those ESXi servers that are kind of represented by this light blue rectangle, I guess we'll call that here, they have physical connections up to a physical data center switch. And that data center switch will be like a Nexus 9000 or something like that, and we probably configured it to send NetFlow to our PNM sensor. The issue comes up on an ESXi server where with multiple virtual machines talking to each other on the same ESXi server. That traffic never goes up to the physical switch because they're talking directly to each other on the distributed virtual switch. So they talk and talk like crazy. We never see it. We never get that telemetry. Now if VM3 here sends traffic to VM4, well, we're going to see that on the physical switch because we set that up to send us NetFlow. But between VM1 and VM2, well, we're not going to see that traffic. We're not going to be able to collect telemetry. So what we're going to do is we're going to collect NetFlow telemetry from an ESXi server by using the distributed virtual switch that's configured on all of these. And we'll go in there, we'll configure that distributed virtual switch to send NetFlow for traffic that goes back and forth between VMs on the same ESXi server. So that's the problem we're trying to solve here with this particular video. So it's important to note that VMware distributed switches support IPFix, what they sometimes call NetFlow version 10, but we need to configure your PNM sensor to consume IPFix, not regular NetFlow. It's IPFix type of NetFlow. So to configure your PNM sensor to consume IPFix, we're going to go into our settings sensors and our XDR analytics portal. We're going to find PNM sensor that we're interested in. We're going to click on Settings, Configure NetFlow IP. Okay, that brings up this page here where we're going to actually add a new probe. Now, I already have IPFix configured on here, but we're going to walk through the configuration of the new probe anyway. So we're going to click on Add New Probe. Probe type is going to be IP version or IPFix. The port is 9996. Now, that's what's recommended in the documentation, but we can make this any port we want to or need to if we're already using 9996 for something else. And protocol UDP source standard, that's it. And then we go ahead here and click create. Okay, here we are in vSphere. I've selected networking, and then I've selected the distributed virtual switch that I'm going to be configuring. Then we're going to go over to configure NetFlow. Now you can see I already have it configured, but we're going to go ahead and walk through the steps anyways. We're going to click on Edit in the upper right-hand corner here. And the destination IP address of the PNM sensor is right here. The collector port 9996, that's what we configured previously in the XDR Analytics portal. Observation domain ID, just leave that at 0. We don't need that. It's not going to apply for the sending telemetry to the PNM sensor. This might be important to use switch IP address. Let's go ahead and see what this has to say. Assign an IP address to see distributed switch as a single network device and the NetFlow collector instead of as multiple devices corresponding to each host. It's talking about the ESXi host IP address. That's what's going to be sending us the telemetry. And we're going to look at that in a minute to see what addresses, where we can see what addresses this is coming from. But if you want to see it from just one IP, you can put something in here. But it's not really important for sending telemetry to the PNM sensor. Active flow export timeout 60, so send every 1 minute. Idle timeout 15. We've talked about this on other videos. Those are pretty much the defaults we want when we're talking about sending telemetry for security purposes. Sampling rate 0, that means send every flow information. If you set it to sampling, like if you set it to 100, it would only send one packet out of every 100, one flow out of every 100 flow sessions. We want everything. For security, we need to see all of it. And then process internal flows as enabled. We want to make sure that's it. You got the choice of enabled or disabled. We're going to go over what enabled is right now, and then go ahead and click OK. So in regards to processing internal flows only, that's the whole reason we're doing this. So here's the documentation that we showed you earlier. We're going down to step 8 where it says optional to collect data on the network activity between virtual machines on the same hosts. Enable process internal flows only. That's what we're making sure we get. The communication between virtual machines on the same ESXi server. We'll get all the information between the ESXi servers by doing our NetFlow from the switches that these are connected to. But to see the traffic internally on the same ESXi host, that's what we're trying to get between each virtual machine. We've got to make sure that we enable that. Okay, back into our vSphere client. We're still on configure, and down here on NetFlow, we're going to go up to topology. And over here for our uplinks, we're going to go ahead and open this caret, and this is what we're going to see. We're going to see telemetry coming from these IP addresses. These are the VNICs on the ESXi servers themselves and the IP address that is assigned to them. So .70, .71, and .72. This is where we'll see the flow coming from, and each one of these is a different ESXi server in our case. But that's how we're going to be able to tell that we're getting flow from all of them. We'll see that when we do the TCP dump on the PNM sensor. Alright, so here we are in our PNM sensor. We're going to do a quick TCP dump to make sure that we are receiving IPFix telemetry from our ESXi servers. So we're going to do a sudo TCP dump -C10. The -C lowercase for 10 means we only want to collect 10 packets. I just want to see that it's happening. Port 9996. Remember, that's the port we said to send it on. So let's see if we're receiving those here. Well, we need to put in our password. There we go. And it looks like it's coming through. All right, let's take a look at that. So we're seeing traffic from .70, .71, and .72. Remember when I showed you that's where it will be sourcing from, the IP addresses of those specific ESXi servers. So looks like we were successful. So I had to edit this video because I forgot a step that can probably get you in trouble. So if you did the TCP dump and just like I said, and you set up all the other configurations and you did not see telemetry, it is probably because there's another step in here that I neglected to tell you. So you would go into your distributed switch here, then I want you to right click on it, and you're going to go to distributed port group, and you're going to go to manage distributed port groups. And you're going to click on monitoring. That's going to pop up like that. You go to next, select the VLANs. I have a whopping 2 VLANs for my demo here, but you would select the VLANs that you want to get telemetry from. Click next, and then where it says NetFlow, I want you to go ahead and click on enable, and then next and finish, and then bounce back into your TCP dump, and you should start seeing the traffic at that point on the incoming port.